Hey guys, it's Brandon.
And Carrie.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about something I've been dealing with, and it's partly stepping into your power, detaching, recognizing the patterns, be it in the physical day-to-day life or even your dream patterns, through dreams that keep reoccurring that you're either not understanding or taking the right message from. And so Carrie and I wanted to talk a little bit about that today.
That's right, Brandon. I've been doing a lot of reading or, seeing different posts of people on social media and things like that. And even some of the people I talk with about the feeling of severe discouragement, of wondering if they even need to continue the course or to be here. Or the other scenario is that some are getting so wound up in the rabbit hole that they have totally lost their way and only can see to continue to go down deeper and deeper and spiraling around and around, seeing a road they think might lead back out, but realizing later that it only takes them deeper and deeper into the web, if you will, of the rabbit hole thing. So I think kind of what I was thinking was, it seems to me that we all need a little dose of encouragement to stay the course and to continue the detaching and living unattached. It's kind of a two-part process. And then also, I think what's going to be really, really important, and Brandon and I have talked quite a bit about this, is about within our own self, in the things that I'll call it the enemy, for lack of another word, because they're not my friends. And they're not human. This is in a spiritual realm. So I'm not talking about anything here. It just manifests in this realm. They bring up old memories. They bring up stuff from the past, things that we think we've already healed from, that we've already detached from, things that really never cross our mind anymore. And for some reason, a lot of people are really being assaulted with all of these old thoughts, old memories, and old things. It's really putting them into a big depression. So much to the point that several people I've spoken with have expressed a desire to no longer have a presence in this reality. So, like I said, I think it's something that we need to talk about. And that, there's a lot of talk on the showing appreciation and how much appreciation can change things around. And I never really understood that until I started toying with the idea of flipping the script. And so where these things, these enemies, want to bring these memories up to harm us, to keep us in the loop, to throw us right back into things we've already stepped out of and walked away from. If we will stand up to that and realize and have gratitude, not to them, but gratitude to our own self, that we have finally seen these patterns, that we keep going back to these old ways of doing things, old ways of thinking, old memories and things, and we end up getting trapped there. For me, I had to add in that I was always drawn to particular types of people, which generally tended to be narcissists or narcissistic tendencies and feeders. And so I think that it's a worthwhile thing to sit down with our own self. And even I've done a thing with I call them timelines, where I've gone back and on one timeline, I'll do significant events and explore the different, topics or time significant events, I guess is the best way to put it. Things that I remember that occurred during my childhood, growing up, and things of that nature.
Like either like traumatic events or like markers
on
your
exactly
timeline.
On the timeline. And then I go through each one of those and bring in my perspective now as an adult, looking back, and rethink the whole thing And what for me, most of it revolved around was me allowing myself to have been me at that time who didn't understand, who didn't have the insight, who processed information very differently than now, and have my now me uh, love my previous me, I guess, the younger version of myself, and allow me to have been that rather than the other me that's very critical and wants to beat myself up and you should have known better and you should have this and should have, would have, could have. And now I'm at a point where with those events, I've gone back and they still come up occasionally, and I have to remind myself that I've already done this and I'm not going back. But I had to go back, review the things, realize that I did the very best I could with the information I had and with my ability to process that information at that particular time. I may do things very differently now if I were in the situation again, or I can repeat the very same patterns throughout the rest of my lifetime. And so that, for me, has probably been one of the most helpful things is that pattern recognition. Then I've been able to stop those patterns and make a new decision. That's where our true free will comes in. Once we recognize the groupthink, then we can implement our own decision that I will not do that any longer. Do not present this to me. You're imposing upon me. And the true universal law would be no imposition. And so in this realm where we live now, they impose everything. And so once we learn to stand in our own power and push back against those things, and I will never say to embrace the darkness, ever. That's what got us in trouble here in the first place, as far as I'm concerned. Now, there may be a million other perspectives on that, but when we mix darkness with light, we don't get better light. We get darker light. And that has been the thing that has kept us here, because the more darkness within our own light gives them of darkness something in common, and that allows them these attachments. And that's why we, in my opinion, need to push back the darkness.
No, I totally agree. I keep thinking, am I going to get mad at myself at, we'll say, 8 years old, trying to build a house with a couple nails and boards and a hammer, when that's all that I was provided with at that time? Be it, you can look at it from an education standpoint, an academic standpoint, or whatnot. But like, you can't punish your previous you in the past and bring that in to the current state of now, and not realize that you did the best with the tools that you had at your disposal at that time.
Right, and your own knowledge of how to use those tools.
Correct.
See, an 8-year-old, I built my first house. It was a tiny shack to keep my saddles and stuff in when I was probably 11 or 12 years old. But I was raised in, my dad worked construction. He was a carpenter. He built buildings. And so that's what we did summer vacation. We didn't go play and frolic. Mm-hmm. We worked. We dug ditches. We poured concrete. We framed houses. We framed commercial buildings. We worked. We laid carpet. I mean, if it was something that we did it as a family. So I have a different skill set than someone who's not been exposed to all of that. And so, but the little building I built at 11 was like a 4x4. I even had sacks of concrete and poured cement on the ground. It's only like 2 inches thick, but it was something. But that was a different skill set. And so where that doesn't really require forgiveness, I can look back and chuckle, because now I would do it very differently. And I have. I've built these little buildings out here. And so it's just a different skill set and a lot more experience in that. I think one of the greatest tricks that they, this is all in the spiritual realm, in a higher realm, that they like to use, is anything that will put us into a guilt mindset, where we feel guilty or we feel bad about something that happened in the past, or we think, say, children, when I was a therapist and worked with children, That was one of the big things, is that the adults would think that as a child they should have protected their siblings. They should have known better, and they should have all of these things. And there's no way that they could have stood up to an abusive parent or aunt, uncle, babysitter, whatever it was, uh, at 6 years old, and had the wherewithal to be able to even let them know or articulate, back off. Now, some kids do, and they'll say it pretty much in that frame of work. But, a lot of them will risk being punished. And so a lot of us, we don't like to get punished. And so we don't say anything, and we don't stand up for others. And some of us do, and we're frequently beaten back for it too. So it's they like to use guilt. They like to use the traumas, and they like to make us look back at things with the whole coulda, woulda, shoulda scenario.
So, like for me recently, I get it specifically during dream time. I'll see this person or that person, old friend, bad influence, ex, narcissist, and I'm like interacting with them in the dream time. And I come out of it, I'm like, why would that be? Well, in retrospect, like you said earlier, it's like an assault, a spiritual assault from that negative being or entity that is trying to stop my growth or my true awakening or state of awareness to move forward. So what happens then, normally, if you're not aware of that pattern, you just default to whatever vice or internet or seeking something outside of yourself for a solution, essentially. So knowing that they're assaulting you through means of you being tired or having a sweet, like an addiction to desserts or something, any of those things, how would one, or how would you suggest, and I know it's different for everybody, but how would you suggest noticing the assault and then not really fighting back, or just not entertaining their assault and keeping away from defaulting back to old patterns?
Well, the first thing is in realizing, and I think we have to ask ourselves at some point, doesn't this feel a little all too familiar? Why am I still dreaming about these people, and why are they coming here raining on my parade?
Right.
Every time I start moving forward and feel like I'm on the right track, suddenly someone leaves the cattle gate open, and here they come, trying to drag me back.
These old relationships? Like I'm getting more calls from my parents who I know aren't aware like we are.
Sure.
Or my ex. If my old friends had my phone numbers, I'm sure I would have them be contacting me as well. There was a time where I did have a friend that I didn't speak to for about 12, 16 months. And I stopped drinking and all that good stuff, long time sober. And then out of the blue, he calls and he only wants to talk about this whiskey he got, and he wants to come over, or he wants me to come over and taste this whiskey. I'm like, man, I don't even drink. I don't do this. I don't do that. I'm not interested. He's like, oh, but you'll like it. And then I got off the phone while I was married. I told my wife, I was like, I haven't talked to him in 16 months. And the first thing, because I'm so strong on my sobriety, first thing he wants me to do is come over and drink with him.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, don't you find that a little bit odd? And she was, nope, it doesn't seem odd to me at all.
Because you were on the verge, and this is when they always will hit you, on the verge of an extensive awakening, whatever that will mean to you, and for each of us. And so that's like the last ditch effort. And so what I'm noticing just here talking is, even from your dream, from the reality, from recent events in my own life, mine present in the person, where yours is presented more in the dreams and things. I went through a short time where it was dreams. So these are things that have been connections to ground us here for a long time. And so these are connections that they are still tied to. It's not those people themselves. It's the same spirit that rules over them, the spirit of blindness. There's several others that go along with that. And so it's a last ditch effort to try to link you back into that, number one. So if we flip the script and look at it as, well, thank you for doing that, because now I see that I have been cut off from those things, because elsewise you would not be trying to reintroduce these people back to me and
Right.
make me start longing for them as if I'm lacking something in
Nostalgifying
this.
and reminiscing.
Exactly. And nostalgia is what will keep us here. So this
Wishing again now for something that once was.
right,
Yeah.
which comes totally from a lack mentality.
Correct.
And so when we step into our own fullness, our own holiness, and we continue to walk in that, I think that we'll see things start to change. But you were asking what to do. What I do is, when I recognize it, I don't always immediately recognize it, but as we practice it more, we'll begin to recognize it more quickly and then stand against it. And what I mean by that is just flat out tell it no. You know, back in the early 80s, Nancy Reagan, I believe, had the big anti-drug campaign of just say no, and she was so ridiculed. And so the campaign didn't last for very long, but I remember them getting on the news and just really trying to destroy everything about her, how dumb she was, and she's just naive, she didn't know how hard it was, and people bought into that. And so now you don't even hear about that anymore. And I think even on the Dare cars, we were talking about that the other day, it had just say no.
Changed.
Yeah, and they've changed all that,
mm-hmm.
because that is the truth. When we can stand in our own power, that's what it takes to say no. I remember I got out of teaching in education because they started the unspoken rule, I guess, that you were to never say no to a child, and that was suddenly bad for their psyche to be told no. You will save your kid's life if you teach them the word no, and if you teach them how to properly use the word no,
mm-hmm.
and assert their own self appropriately. But the pattern recognition comes from, when you go around the merry-go-round so many times, it's like, I am either going to get off this thing or I'm going to barf and stay on it. And so they'd prefer you to barf and stay on it. And it's at that time we can get off the merry-go-round, see that the sucker's still going round and round in circles. And, oh, there's a pattern here. I keep getting on the merry-go-round and wondering why I need to throw up.
Right.
You see. And so where we've gotten off of it, after we finish the head reeling for a while, then, if we want to go back, we can go jump back on it. But free will allows us to stay off of it too. And that's where recognizing the pattern comes in. When we start seeing that, every person that I've dated has had this particular attributes
mm-hmm. that
appear to be one thing, and then you get involved with them and you find out it's Satan incarnate, very, very different, very, controlling and things like that. So it's a pattern recognition is probably the best thing. And then self-talk. And for some, the mantras work really good. It feels false to me. It feels fake to me, so I don't do them. I have my own thing that I have made up that I do to remind myself of who I really am, and it has nothing to do with guru or teacher or anything of anybody here. And for me, it seems to be that it takes me to what I call the Truniverse, the isness. That is far beyond this, the true eternity, and not this encapsulated construct of time.
Yeah, it's like almost, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's being aware that this is happening, noticing the pattern, saying no to it, not going back into agreement with it, which when you were talking, I kept thinking of like chains, we are the chain breakers, like just kind of like the Jesus thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like each ream or each ring in that chain is almost like narcissistic partners, overstepping boundary mother-in-law. It's these patterns and these circles and their loops, and they basically want to chain you down again in their ways of their patterns, and hopefully you won't recognize it, and at the end you will, and you'll realize you've been chained the whole time.
Well, and that's true, but what I think is so important, and a lot of people miss, is what was my role in making those decisions. What in me, not to blame anyone else, because I honestly can't.
Right.
I can't. I made my own decision in how I was going to deal with each situation, whether I got involved with it or not. The mere fact of its presentation is neither good nor evil. It's the bait, and we have to decide whether we're going to take it or not. And so I'm not an advocate for blaming or pointing fingers. It's what was in me, what was my mindset to thinking that I needed to have this kind of human in my life. Usually it revolved around my own insecurities, my own lack of confidence, my own self-doubt, my own sense of shame, things that I've struggled with for many, many years. And now I've turned it around to when I see the patterns, I am grateful for being shown the patterns. I'm not grateful to the thing showing me the pattern, because they can go and walk off as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. But what I am grateful for is the ability in myself now at this point to be able to recognize, oh man, it's a freaking pattern. I do this, I do this, I do this, and I do this when these things are presented. So my goal is not to sit here and you presented that, you done that, and you done that, because I will never grow past that, ever, ever. That is a trap. But when I realized that I see my own insecurity got me involved in these situations. I thought I could do this and this and this. I found out I couldn't. And so, ego, all kinds of things. And so I have to examine myself. I can't change them. They are who they are. It's not my business, not my problem, nothing. I'm responsible for this right here. And so when I recognize the pattern, then I can choose to return to it or to get out of it. And the longer I stay out of it, the less likely I am to return to it when it does get presented, and it will. It's not the, in Christianity we were taught God's testing you. God gives you tests. You know what? You can stick your test in your ear. My parents did not test me. And this entity is supposed to be a parent. They call it father and all this and that. It's supposed to be loving and all that. Well, my parents did not test me to see if I loved them. They didn't throw out little things like that. They didn't throw me in a pit of vipers to see if I loved them enough to think that they would come and, pull me out. It didn't happen. And so I just have a hard time believing anymore that such an entity that
is benevolent would do such a thing.
Would want to test you, and you have to prove to me you love me. Dude, if you don't know it, something wrong with you. And if you need that kind of proof and you must be told that all the time, that to me, that's a God of lack. Right. Not the thing that I would want to call God, So I think that when we recognize those things, we can choose, make a choice different. That's where our only really true will is here. When we keep choosing from the multiple choice solutions that they offer to us, even if we choose E, all the above, we're still making choices from their script. And so that makes us predictable, which keeps us in their system, because machines love predictability. They can bank on it, and literally, that's exactly what I mean. Money, trading, stocks, the whole deal, bonds, binding, the whole thing, everything, every word here has a double meaning. And some have more than that. But the key to it is recognizing the patterns, making a different and unpredictable choice, not that it's way out willy and obnoxious, but that it's prudent. And generally the choice needs to be, no, I will not participate in that. And then learning that It's not those people in our dreams or the ones who present in real life, because they're hearing a different voice that says, go visit Carrie or go call Brandon and hey, I bet he'll go have a drink with you. They're getting that put into their awareness by another entity. It's not them. It's that other entity speaking, working through them, because they're not trying to cut off from it. But because we were tied to these people at some point, that creates a common ground. Okay. And that is a point of access by any entity, is anything that we have in common, which is why I'm such an advocate for detaching and living unattached. Doesn't mean we don't love, doesn't mean we don't care. It doesn't mean any of that. It means that my awareness of those things is not going to supersede my own awareness of my own self. And finally, at 60 some odd years old, taking care of her rather than everybody else and their flipping dog.
Right. See, no, and that message in its entirety does give me hope, because the programming of the exit, take yourself out, to some, I didn't get that one, but it was like, what's the point of being here? To survive just to survive? Or if I'm going to be here, then what do I need to do? It tells me, because of the awareness, because of that, being grateful of it, that's enough hope that I know that I'm doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
By
To
detaching
me,
and
you
so
bet,
forth.
you bet. It confirms that we're on the right track. If we flip it, see, we're used to looking at it the way they've told us to look at it.
Right.
If we'll look at it that, oh, I see now that I'm under attack. So first of all, I'm going to salute you with my middle finger. And then I'm going to see what in me keeps being drawn to this and work on truthing myself to what is the truth about this. Am I feeling that I'm dust of the earth? Therefore, I shall tell myself, oh, no, you are not. And then fill in the blank of who I really am, and what's really going on. So truth always counters a lie. And I don't just mean one's individual truth. I'm talking about a greater truth that far supersedes anything that we're familiar with in this earth. Because there are many things here that are true, but they're not necessarily
they're
the
true
truth.
of the realm or the construct or whatever.
Right.
They're true because
Well,
in here it's true.
Yeah.
Out there, where we're from, where we belong, it's not. So
right.
the truth is, it just is. There is no way around it. There is no individual truth.
Right. That's the bottom line in the Truniverse, is what is. Bottom line, it is. It just is because it is. It has always been, is, will always be. It's immutable. It's unchangeable completely. The copy in which we live, the facsimile, has taken the concept or that pattern and modified it by mixing it with a different type of matter, which is dead matter. It's a dead mother, if you will, and materializing all these things. And as their light force, life energy wanes, they had to find another way to keep extending their own existence.
Yeah. And
so that's kind of where we find ourselves now. I think we came here to help get this thing turned around, try to bring life into a realm of dead and death, and wound up getting basically consumed by it because they found out we are the power source. And I contend that this is hell. This is death. I see dead titans everywhere I look, or whatever one wants to call them, ancient life forms.
Quote unquote mountains.
Yeah.
Rock formations.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and then I see the beautiful greenery. Well, that would be on us.
Right.
We were the ones that when we were in a higher level, we were tasked with bringing that life or that beauty, and then they set that up into a rotating cyclical nature, which is exactly what a generator is. It generates by generation more energy of the dark pushing against the light, and round and around and around we go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's within this level of captivity. even at the higher levels, if people think, oh well, in dimension 12 or 5 or 9, yes, you have forever eternal life, and I'm going to tell you, no, you don't. You don't. Everything here dies. Only until we escape this ginormous containment field will we find true, quote unquote, eternity. As long as we're here, we're in time. So for the people that say there is, the time is made up, it doesn't really exist. It exists only in this realm.
Correct.
In the matter it does, because that way they can track the duration of their existence here, and how much food needs to be generated, and how
Jupiter
many
ascending.
generations, and how much each needs to put out, and then how much they can trade on their stock market of these things. Just like it's exactly, I think, what they had in Jupiter Ascending.
It's just like the movie with Justin Timberlake that I saw on YouTube called In Time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's just buying more time, and there's different levels or sectors or sections or communities, which are basically the same thing as the layers or dimensions or realms. It's the same. They're all vying for more time to stay immortal.
True.
They're in with their immortality.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Exactly.
Immortal selves.
Exactly. And so I think that another thing that came out in Jupiter Ascending was when one of the Anunnaki, I don't know what else to call them,
Sure.
siblings, had exposed that, and she said this, that the only commodity, the only thing worth living for here is acquiring more time. Time is the commodity that is traded. And so by buying and selling the stuff they take from the blood or whatever on the market, they buy more time. But time is the only thing. So they're revealing right there that they're already dead. And I think that, to go back to the Bible, there's a passage where Jesus is talking about, the first death, or it may be in Revelation. These people will go through the first death, blah, 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 blah. We've already done that. That's where we're at right now. And then the second death, and you don't want to do the second death. And so I think the second death is total separation, where what makes us unique in us, our Truniverse
isness,
spark, isness,
our
that
soul
is
spark,
within
or not
our
not
soul.
even our soul spark.
Yeah,
spark.
Because soul is a construct of this thing. Then our Truniverse self, fractal, because we're broken into many pieces. I think we'll either be gone, or we'll have chosen to remain here and totally sell out, at which point we'll be cut off.
You won't be in
from
control.
Any hope of ever returning home. Right. I honestly believe this is the last thing. I think we're here right now in this time to purify mostly our mind, our hearts, and our bodies. Everything follows. As the mind gets clearer, then the heart gets clearer, then the soul, the body gets clearer in the thinking. I think we need to be clear. Not that we go and divulge every deep, dark secret or whatever. That ain't nobody else's business. That's between yourself and yourself.
Right.
To deal with, and or release, bless it, and let it go. But I just lost my train of thought.
You're good. No, I think it's the end of it too.
Yeah.
I do think we are here to let go of some of those ties that we've had at different spiritual levels and experiences. It's almost like it's a journey of purification, to remember, meaning call back the fragments that have left you that are good. Call back all your shards, all your pieces, all your members to you. And that's, again, stepping in your power. Because the assault on our hope, which is what's happening, because they want you to feel hopeless, right? Or no hope at all, is that we won't do that. And when we step into our power and do those things, saying, I see ya, thank you, goodbye, that's what they're worried about. Because at that point, once enough of us do that, as the collective consciousness arises, because whatever you and I say, Carrie, like when we have conversations, be it on phones or be it away from phones, or we put out videos, it goes out into a collective. And then, because we've said this before, we've noticed people are talking about some of the same stuff that we've discussed. And how could that be? And it's the collective consciousness. So, and that's part of the great work, as in my opinion, is the remembrance, and with continuing to always carry hope within yourself, and for yourself. But that's the assault on hope, is how I view it, and that's how we can combat that, by stepping in our power.
I think so. And it's not hope in something outside of
Nope.
yourself as much, although I do think, think about it, for every prison break, there's always been someone on the outside
Has to be.
to coordinate everything. And so somehow, somewhere, and I just wonder if that's not some of our portions of our original self, our fractalized self, that was broken. There's a passage that in the Bible, it says, strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered. I think that we were the sheepfold. We were the original, kinder, gentler, because we knew none of these things, and naive, very naive. And we were struck, or we were presented with a prison, and our light was fractalized into a variety of different directions. And then each of those then is again broken up. And so I think that, that which is scattered can also be gathered.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything here decomposes. So where they're decomposing not to be put back together again, they can only run a holding pattern by eating from our energy, or consuming what life force that we put out, because we're the only ones that truly contain that. And so, but I think right now, our main purpose boils down to realizing, number one, this is not our world to change. Number two, if we could have changed it, we would have already done it generations ago.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, that in realizing and taking our hands off and stopping focusing on this place, and calling back our own broken shards, and remembering, as you said, who we really are. In the Bible, the word used for that Jesus says, "I will send you a spirit of truth, and will bring all things into remembrance." It never made sense to me as, truth. He's going to tell me the truth, and I'm going to remember what? Well, the word there is aletheia, mm-hmm. in the Greek, and it means the unforgetting. So when you unforget something, you specifically remember it. You recollect it back into your own self, and that is our collective. So some of the things that we remember, and going back into the quantum physics, what's done with this particle over here occurs also in the other. And so what we're doing and wakening up, that just gave me chills.
I know it.
Wow. It happens in the other, the other part. And that's what brings the purification of all of our parts, that we're, rest assured, each of us individually is purifying, and some of us may be crossed in thinking that we're different, and we may not be. We may be a different version of our own self in a different,
we'll call it
scenario.
Yeah.
Deal, because we flat out don't know. And somebody tells you that they do know and has all the answers. I don't say walk away. I said you better run, because nobody's got all the answers right now. I think we can have access to them as we, purify and walk more in the spirit, and quit relying on other people for their information, because 90% of them are still tied to this realm. It doesn't matter who it is, but anyone that says, "Hey, follow me, I got all the answers," better run.
Absolutely.
Run quickly, because they don't have the answers.
All right, guys. Well, that's it from me and Carrie on, we'll call this one, what do you think, Assault on Hope?
And there we go. Yeah, because that's what they want to do. They want to make us quit looking for our own self. They want us to look at their saviors that they're about to produce upon this earth, in several varieties of forms. I was just talking with Brandon a while ago, and I know we're trying to leave, but how the letter X is, I believe, is Chi in which looks like chi, interestingly enough, in the Greek, and that is the letter that the Catholic Church uses to signify the Christ. And so there is a quote unquote Christed one that I'm sure he's got all the backbone juice he can handle.
That's why they call it the Fibonacci.
Yeah.
Fib no chi.
Yeah, and exactly, or fib to the Nazis. I don't know which.
I think it's both.
Or the fib of the Nazis, or which is Zion. So, we may get dinged for that. But
look forward to more videos coming from us, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right.